Welcome to another great episode of the Contractor Business Builder podcast. We have the honor, our guest today is Jennifer Castenson with Buildxact. Looking forward to learning more about the program and how contractors can utilize software to improve their business. How are you doing today, Jennifer?
Great. Thank you so much, Derek, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to dive into this. So can you tell us just a bit about yourself, your background, and then, Buildxact?
Sure, of course. So I've been in the construction space for a couple decades now, starting with a developer, going to a building products manufacturer, organized living, and then to Zonda, which is the media group that services, the trade media group that services all the verticals within the housing space. And then now to Buildxact, where I've been for 3 years. A little bit of background on Buildxact. It's 13 years old and was started in Australia, which is where our headquarters are, and expanded into the US and Canada about the time that I joined the company 3 years ago. And we were started to try to link all the stakeholders in a residential construction project. So to help the custom home builder or the design build remodeler be more effective and efficient in that process. So connecting them with the homeowner and the supplier all on one platform in all the various stages of the project.
Right on. Makes sense. So yeah, bringing a couple of decades of construction experience to Buildxact and then working with the software as well. I like how you said connecting because so much of daily operations is communication. And that's often where a lot of the headaches come into play as far as figuring out who's talking to who and how communication is flowing. So to have one platform to be able to facilitate that is great. Who would be a typical person that would be using Buildxact? Who's the software built for?
Yeah, exactly. So we serve the custom home builder who's building, probably less than 10 homes a year, depending on how elaborate those homes are. I've talked to some custom home builders who build one home a year, and it's well worth it because it's a very large, luxurious property. But then alongside them, the design build remodelers. So the ones that are doing remodels that necessitate having the design phase and the takeoff and the more elaborate remodel projects that need that care and the handling that it takes.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And yeah, it saves so much time, right? Like the time just having everything in one place and having a program that's made for general contractors, for home builders that can take all those different pieces and all those different hats that they're wearing and bringing into one. It makes a big difference. And there's a lot of time consuming processes in construction, things that just need to get done. How does Buildxact, streamline like estimating, the scheduling, the project management portion of running a construction business?
Sure. Yeah. And let me go just a little bit higher level. So one thing you just mentioned, connecting and communications are important, which yes, they are, but when you don't have a platform like Buildxact, it might be 10 times the amount of communications than you actually need. So we've done we've commissioned some research where we saw that when somebody is just using phone calls and emails, it ends up being like 10 communications, whereas when they go through a platform, construction project management platform, it's just one place where everybody's on the same page. So it reduces the amount of back and forth, which also, as you can imagine, reduces the number of errors that might happen in those communications. But with Buildxact, we started off as a takeoff tool. And so that's a proprietary portion of our software that's pretty unique to us because it is very well evolved over those dozen years plus, and it can be very detailed and also super easy to use. So it's basically loading up any sort of document that shows that you can do a takeoff of, do a scale of, and then do a takeoff, like loading up a napkin where you did a sketch. So that works actually, as long as you can scale it and then do the takeoff on the platform. So once you're in and doing that, there's a number of different items that you can do within the platform, which is there's a CRM component, and then there are integrations. So we integrate with some partners that also would be necessary throughout the life cycle of the project, like QuickBooks Online. And then you can go to doing the take off the estimates and then winning the job. So once you've won the job, it converts into everything that needs to happen after you have the job. So the project details, communicating with the homeowner, uploading documents that the homeowner can see, and then cost tracking, which I know you're so good at. And it is so great to have partners like you that help put it into that, systematize it and put it into a process that is digestible, because, that's part of what our platform does. But if you don't know it and cannot embrace that as a process within your organization, the technology isn't as effective as it should be.
Yeah, implementation is always an extra hurdle. Obviously with anything new, there's going to be some friction and figuring things out and learning curve and all that stuff. But I think the big thing is trying to keep it bite-sized and figuring out sort of, obviously there's a lot of features, a lot of functions, figuring out sort of, one portion and next portion, and maybe leaving some of the bigger stuff on the back burner until you've got some of the more priority things figured out. Things like job costing is definitely important, but it can be a fairly large undertaking just to get everything jiving properly. Because there's both the software component, but there's also just the human component of the whole expense tracking process of receipts and how do those get into the software and who checks to see if the right job or cost code and things are added there. So on the website, I believe it says that Buildxact can reduce takeoff times by up to 80%. What features help contribute to that takeoff percentage? And I know that's something every contractor wants to hear, because nobody really enjoys spending their evenings and weekends crunching numbers and trying to manually do takeoffs and things like that. So what are some of the tools or ways that Buildxact can help speed up that takeoff process?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, a lot of our builders are coming from a manual process. So right away, you're being much more efficient by moving it to a digital process. The other thing is that when you go from manual to digital, you're doing it once and you have it there and you're saving it and you can refer to it over and over again. Whereas many of our builders were in a manual process, we're going back and having to redo it and having to look at it again and redo it again. And then, when you're doing things like that, you've got errors or you're increasing the risk for errors. And that is a time suck, right? So you check and double check. The accuracy saves a bunch of time. What we've seen too is, I was kind of mentioning before that when you're working with a dealer, a lot of dealers like to do the takeoffs for their builders because it puts them in a position to make sure that they get the order. And so when the builder actually takes it on themselves, they don't have to wait for the dealer anymore. They don't have to wait the average. When we commissioned that research, it's an average of 4 days to get back. And so they're no longer waiting. The number one factor, which I'm sure Derek, and you can probably cite this a little bit better than I can, but number one factor for a builder winning a job is to be the first one to respond. And not only the number one factor, but number one factor by a very large margin. So the speed to response makes a big deal when you're a builder and trying to win and convert your sales.
Yeah, definitely. It shows a lot of it's almost part of branding, essentially, with how quickly you're able to respond to leads and also produce estimates and quotes. And the less, people you need to rely on that are outside of your organization, the more control you have to move things along and speed it up. Plus the accuracy of just knowing that you or somebody on your team has produced the quote materials. Like, with suppliers, there's possibilities of inaccuracies there and you don't always know their process. Whereas when you've got a software done takeoffs, you can always go back and see where, if things need to be adjusted or what takeoffs have done there. I've done a lot of takeoffs in my day and I know I've made some mistakes, and it's good to be able to go back, and even if you forgot something or miscalculated, you can go and see, why that happened and then correct it for the future, which is another part of the takeoff process. Is there's always the human component, but having it digitally and having it in-house, you're you're able to refine and improve your process and your takeoffs over time and make less and less mistakes and increase accuracy over time. So I remember one specific situation where I had to call a client and let them know that I forgot to include the ceiling drywall in the quote that I'd given them because my drywall budget was significantly lower than the trade had provided after winning the job. So fun times, but things happen. It's construction, right? So speaking of mistakes, what are some common mistakes that you see contractors making when they're implementing new software? So, they've got Buildxact or some other software. They hope it's going to change and revolutionize their business. But of course, implementation is another ball game. What mistakes do you see contractors making when they're implementing new software?
Yeah, so this is not unique to the builder experience, but with any of us as consumers of technology, I would say the mistakes are not getting the proper training and therefore maybe not using it enough and not asking for help. So I would say that those are the top three. And we have a customer success team is at the ready and can help with anything at any time. Yet, sometimes it's hard to stop what you're doing and really be thoughtful about the investment that you've made in your technology and how it can help you and why you made that investment to be more efficient and effective. But yeah, so I would say those are the top three.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. And, I'm guilty of not reaching out for help when I should, for sure. I think a lot of contractors like that. We're used to kind of getting things done for ourselves in our own way and whatever. But as you grow, having a team around you and having other people help you is critical to be able to just manage time and everything. And it doesn't matter, what software you're on. Essentially, they all have training videos or, support people that can help you to utilize the software. Obviously, whenever you purchase software, they want you to have a great experience and they want to provide as much training and help as possible. So, you don't have to try to figure things out on your own. Definitely, utilize the support that's available through the software. So as far as like the estimating process, I know that's a big pain point. A lot of my clients, that's one of the first kind of areas we generally look at is their estimating, because good estimating creates a strong company. Essentially, if you've estimated properly, when you go to produce the project, you're going to be profitable. Even if things don't go exactly as planned, you at least have, crossed your T's, dotted your I's. And how does Buildxact help with the accuracy and pricing for estimating?
Yeah, this is fun. So first of all, you were just mentioning that you accidentally missed something, but one thing that you can do inside of Buildxact is create templates or recipes, assemblies that you can save for work and include the basic items that you might need. And then you can go and customize it based on the takeoff and the measurements from the takeoff. So that's one thing that, can expedite things pretty dramatically from project to project. The other thing about having more accurate estimates is the level of detail that we've put into them. So you can add labor, and labor we can calculate out on a regional or geographic basis. We can add markups, add equipment costs. We can do taxes based on, your specific. You can set up many different customized factors for your business in particular. Another thing is that when we partner with the dealers, actually we launched probably 2 weeks ago now, live pricing from the Home Depot. So if you connect or integrate to the Home Depot on your Buildxact platform, you can see their SKUs and their live pricing, which, how else do you get a more accurate estimate? And then within that, we also have an AI calculator tool that you can use. So once you go into that portion and you're doing your estimate, you can say, basically, I need all the materials for 40 linear feet of wall, interior and exterior. And it will give you, that based on the decade plus of purchase orders and work that we have within Buildxact. So it continues to make itself more intelligent, but right now it is proving to be incredibly effective and has led to a lot more purchase orders within the platform. So
very cool. And yeah, it's so important to have current pricing, because if you're pulling pricing from old quotes or estimates that are 6 months or a year old. Inflation, prices change, things fluctuate. And generally, like if you're pulling pricing from the past and then as well, you're doing the project 6 months or a year from now, especially for some, home builds that maybe will take a while, pricing can change, a lot in that time too. So very important to have that up-to-date pricing and have it integrated so you don't have to go to the website of your suppliers all the time and double check prices and different things and call your subs and stuff like that. So yeah, very cool. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about more on the project management side of like schedule projects and how the project management portion, like Buildxact is super strong at the takeoffs and the estimating, some of the project management type features for scheduling and communication during like the ongoing project?
Sure, absolutely. So like I said, once you win the project, you can start communications with the homeowner. So those communications are saved and logged within the system, along with all of your subcontractors. And then there is a scheduling tool that you can enter all of those items into, and then create dependencies so that if something moves, then everything else can be moved, and then also be the impacted parties would be communicated those changes immediately. So then there's also the cost tracking item capabilities. So once you start getting into the purchase orders, it's tracking the purchase orders and invoices, the outgoing and then incoming. So that is critical. And in the top right-hand corner of the job, there's always your percentage of margin. So it's tracking that throughout the life cycle of the project so that you know at every moment. And then if we also have the capability of pushing through change orders. So then you would be looking at it and seeing how the change orders might impact it as well. But yeah, I think that it's really robust in that aspect, and the cost tracking is a critical element. As you mentioned before, it's part of the process that, our users, so some of the custom home builders and remodelers are incredible on the job site. And yet once they get into this aspect of it, maybe it's more of a struggle, but Buildxact alleviates a lot of that and the stress behind tracking some of those items, because it's all right there and visible from day one.
Yeah, so critical to have that information. And one thing I can never stress enough is pre-planning for projects. And if you move into a project with a good schedule, with job costing set up, with, client selections, and kind of the schedule, of course, things will change and fluctuate. But if you've got a solid schedule, all the materials, products, selections, colors, makes, and everything that's going into the project, you can then follow a path and a guideline and just have a much smoother running project. And then with the job costing and tracking, you're able to essentially see if things are going off the rails, or if, something is out of place, as well as at the end of the project, run your actuals for the project and say, we estimated this much. This is actually what it cost. Is it close? Is it over? Is it under? And then you can formulate your estimates to become more profitable if you're under, or more accurate and competitive if, you're overpricing stuff. So super important to have that information available. And contractors or your project managers will thank you a lot for having a system like that in place. I've been a part of businesses and had my own business and done the kind of just have no particular software system to having really refined schedules and costing and project tracking, and it's a night and day difference as far as client experience as well as employee experience for the people working on the job site, whether it's trades employees, the project manager, anybody else involved in the project. So yeah, makes a big difference. Could you walk us through a success story of maybe someone that's used Buildxact, or give us a case study of an actual company that's started using Buildxact and what the outcome was?
Yeah, so actually last year I went to the International Builder Show, and with one of our customers, his name is Josh Bradway from Bradley Construction in Kentucky, and he basically started using Buildxact after he was having heart palpitations, and it was the business was becoming a lot of stress for him. And this is a very strong case study for how much time savings he was able to get but after he started using Buildxact, he basically has said that, it saved his life because he was, using it and getting that much out of the time efficiencies and being able to rest and relax. And that's a lot of what we say and what we see with the platform. But another customer actually was talking about how being able to have the accuracy of the estimates and also making sure that the product orders were correct and, being able to have the takeoff tool in order to get those correct measurements, not getting oversupply to the job sites, resulting in really large cost savings and lowering risk and, doing things that they had not anticipated as a benefit from the software. But then once they did start using it, they saw all these additional benefits coming through, saving thousands of dollars when it was all said and done.
Yeah, wonderful to hear those success stories. And yeah, at the end of the day, health is what's important. So if you can make someone's life easier, a little less, more stress-free, and improve the health, that's what's at the end of the day, right? Spending less time, having less headaches in the business, feeling that things are manageable and in control. And I think, Buildxact software helps contractors do that. So that's just wonderful. For people that want to try out Buildxact or learn more about it, what's the best way for them to get started with Buildxact?
Yeah, you can do a free trial, or get a demo by going to buildxact.com, and it's buildxact.com. So it's exact without the E. So buildxact.com, where you can sign up for a demo or trial. And you can also use any of our social channels to link up and see some of the content that we're putting out and see if it matches what your needs are. So we're available in any way.
Perfect. So yeah, we'll put the website link in the description, whether you're listening or watching this. Check out the description. We'll have a link to the website. Go through there, check out Buildxact, get a trial and give it a whirl. Any final words of wisdom or things you wanted to chat about for our listeners out there?
I would just say embrace technology. I mean, I think that embrace what you don't know maybe is better said. Because it's, you're here to coach, you're here to offer your expertise and services. We're here as a tool to help them, and you have to know how to use the tool. So it is a technology, and at the same time that it's a tool, but you have to learn how to use it. And the same thing, I think you are there to provide that guidance and that expertise to help them manage those types of tools. And we're all here to help in this. I think it's a very unique time for the industry, and it will continue to be. And as we move through the election, I know that forecasts for remodeling were recently adjusted, and we're going to see a major increase in remodeling is what's predicted, and I'm excited about. But so I think times are changing, and you need to effectively use the tools at your disposal.
Yeah, I love what you said earlier about, embracing technology. There's definitely, this comfort zone that we can get into, especially if you're not used to using these softwares or programs, and it may be like, out of the ordinary for you. Maybe you've tried different things and they haven't worked. It really is a process, and the more you use something, the better you get at it. And then, as you mentioned, just as an expert craftsman can take some tools and some lumber and build a beautiful house, Buildxact is a wonderful tool, but rely on the support or coach or mentor or somebody to help you to learn that tool, utilize the tool so that you can, create an amazing, beautiful business utilizing, Buildxact software and tools that are available. So thanks so much for coming on, Jennifer. Really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and connecting with us today.
Huge pleasure. Thank you for listening. And thank you, Derek, for hosting.